Hey everybody, welcome back to the Not There Yet podcast. This is a place where you can find honest conversations, non-polished answers, and lots of good conversation. We hope you have a good time with this episode. Thanks for joining us. Here we go.
Hey everyone, welcome back to the Not There Yet podcast. This is episode number 3, I think, right?
Yeah, 3.
Third episode. And today we are talking about the hot topic of community.
Community.
That was a really nice jingle.
Oh, thank you. I worked really hard on it for about 2 seconds.
Yeah, lots of prep went into that, I can tell.
That's what I do.
So we'll be talking about community today, why it can be difficult, how we both have kind of identified some personal struggles and what that has looked like for us over the years.
Yeah.
And kind of the direction we're heading and what we think we could do with that to improve.
Yeah.
I think it's a common struggle, right?
I don't feel like we're the only ones dealing with it.
Yeah. I think there are people who definitely struggle less than some others.
Yeah.
We can talk about that too. But
yeah, we'll definitely talk about it.
Do you want to start with this day in Facebook?
I do. This day, should we call it this day in or this day on?
I don't think it matters. Does it matter?
Probably not.
Okay. Then
all right. So this day on Facebook, October 24th, 2021.
2021, 4 years ago.
4 years ago. So the post was this. We were kind of mired in just some different relational stuff that was difficult at the time. And some of it had to do with community. And so, ironically enough, we're talking about community today. And this actually came up, and this wasn't planned for this to be the topic that we talked about today on this Facebook memory. So I posted, and it was actually a picture of the Mathioya River, which was nearby where we lived. Very pretty place. We came across it a couple of times for some different things, but it's one of those introspective posts, and it says, "Fellow Christians, are you guilty," and in parentheses, "like me, of tearing down community for the sake of preferences? If so, are you willing to repent and get outside of what's comfy for the sake of the gospel of Jesus?" And that was a hashtag, gospel of Jesus. Community is hard, and differences make things chaotic, but it's worth it. And I'll talk more about that concept and that feeling.
The differences?
Some of it, yeah. Kind of where that post came from compared to today, 4 years later. And yeah, a lot happens in 4 years.
Yeah.
But also 1 year before that, sorry, I'm gonna capitalize on this. 1 year before that was the day that we got to help Levi go public with his faith in Jesus. And
he was baptized
in that Sunday morning on the 20th of October or 24th of October, 2020. So anyway,
cool.
Yeah, it was a lot of fun to look back at that.
Wow, your memories on Facebook are way more serious than mine today.
Well, I didn't go way deep into the Facebooks. Those two caught me.
Well, I kind of did, but I mean, there wasn't really. There were a few things that made me laugh. A few funnies. Let me see, which one do I want to go with? There was one about introducing our daughter to I Love Lucy.
Okay.
That one was fun. But also, I don't know, this one really stands out to me. It was a meme, and it has Nicolas Cage on it. And and it says, and remember, this was like right ahead of the 2016 election. So it says them. So who are you going to vote for? Me. And it's a picture of Nicolas Cage, and it says, "I'm going to steal the Declaration of Independence." I feel that in my bones to this day with politics.
Oh my goodness!
That's a much better answer than voting. It feels like some days
it's
not. I'm not saying voting is unimportant, but I am saying that for me, it just feels like, why don't we just burn it all down? Not really burn it all down.
Well, I think maybe like we could take the Declaration of Independence and like make those guys all read it again.
Yeah. We should have like a master class.
Or just like a yearly
on the Constitution.
Yeah. Oh, actually, yeah, that'd be a good idea.
Yeah. Okay, so that's it.
That was it?
Yeah, this day. Nah, I mean, no. Yeah, nothing crazy. So
right.
I think there was another one about having smoke detectors that when you yell, "I'm just cooking," they immediately turn off, which also was really funny.
That's really funny.
You have to grab the broom and try and attack the ceiling machine with it.
Or rip them out of the ceiling.
Yeah. Oh my gosh. It's the worst.
My goodness. Yeah.
Yeah.
Good times. I had some other ones that were about, 2017, the Astros and the Dodgers and 2020 and all that. Anyway.
Baseball.
Good times.
You always have baseball memories.
I do.
Yeah.
I do. All right.
Okay. Well, you
You-
ready to jump in?
Yeah.
Okay.
So let me just say this. We've kind of prepared by giving each other a very brief overview of
Very
what,
high level.
I mean,
yeah. Like,
it's on like a dry erase board kind of concept here. We're like,
I don't have dry erase board. I have a
well, I'm
Google
just saying
Doc.
like that's I do too, but like
Oh.
I'm saying like the idea is that like it could change.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. We're
I'm not going
flexible.
to change it. I promise.
I mean, we
but-
kind of came in with like an idea of some things we would talk about. And then, but I
Yeah.
don't really know everything on your notes and you don't know everything on mine.
You want me to show you?
No.
Okay. I'll just tell
that like takes away the fun, right?
you.
No.
One of these days
Should
when we
be
have video
unpredictable.
of these podcasts, everybody's going to look at Megadisc over there and going to be like, why does that guy not clean his desk off?
Well, we wouldn't use this setup
Oh,
if
we
we were
would
on
totally-
video, and
totally
I
do that.
would also maybe fix my hair
I'm not going to fix my
or
hair.
put on makeup,
No.
of which neither is
What
done
fun
today.
is
It's a
that?
Friday.
It is Friday.
I didn't have any like crazy meetings today. I just
Which is
kind of
nice.
like rolled around in a sweatshirt and got stuff done.
I mean, not literally rolled around a sweatshirt. When you say
No.
rolled around a sweatshirt, I think of
Just
like you're rolling on the floor.
I was
in the
like,
living
I'm
room
rolling.
in your
That's what I'm
sweatshirt.
thinking. Like I'm rolling. I don't know. That's
All right,
dumb.
let's get
Okay.
back to this
Moving
thing.
on. It reminds me. Hold on. Can I stop for a second and
Yes.
say, I just want to tell this really funny story because I just had this. I just said I'm dumb and it reminded me of when we were in HEB yesterday.
Oh, gosh. Oh, gosh.
I have this poor
HEB
lady.
and Home Goods both.
Okay, well, we'll just talk about one of the stories. Yesterday, I don't know what was happening, but we were in the grocery store and I was trying to get some like fresh thyme, and there was this couple standing in front of the herbs, not moving, and so I was like, "Oh, excuse me, can I reach over here?" And they were like, "Yeah." And when I went to pull the case of thyme, like it's like those plastic containers of thyme, like out of the top of the grocery shelf, it's the kind that like when you move one, the others move to the front.
Yep.
And I pulled one out, and two others leapt out of the wall
They did.
into the lady's face, who was so kind
Yeah.
to let me pull those down. And
Yeah.
I was like, I'm so sorry. And then her husband laughed and said, "That is assault." And then I said, No, it's a time.
And
And then I said,
couldn't-
I'm dumb. I'm walking away.
I couldn't hear anything that was going on because I'm 42 and all I can hear is the ambient noise. And so all I see is this
He did
playing
laugh.
out.
He goes, "Oh, I like that." And I was like, I'm so sorry for attacking you with herbs. I'm leaving now."
Oh, I thought he said he liked that you threw the herbs in his wife's face.
No, he liked that I said it's not assault. It's a time.
Oh, that's even better.
I know, it's so like
I'm really proud of you for the dad joke.
the dad joke. It was
I
so
mean-
bad. But then I was so embarrassed because
great. They
I
were
had
super nice about
attacked
whatever
this poor
happened.
couple with herbs.
Yeah.
I was already like reaching awkwardly around and over them. And
What you
yeah,
should
they
have
were
just
very
done
gracious.
was let me hit them with the basket. Not really. That's not very
Yeah.
nice either.
No, that's not nice.
It was definitely funny to watch without being able to hear everything because I was
It
like,
was-
what's going on?
I think you actually said, "What is happening right now?"
I definitely did.
I was like, I don't know either. I'm just done. Oh man. Okay. Well, that was more entertaining than my Facebook memories. So that was
That
a
was
yesterday
entertaining for sure.
memory. Thought I should
Yeah.
share that. But we should dive into the community topic.
We should. Do you want to
Okay.
kick it off first, or I mean,
Yeah. Well, here's the first question I
yeah,
have.
okay.
Do you find community difficult or easy
That is a loaded
to
question.
build,
To
to
build,
nurture, to
okay,
I think more than anything, initiate might be
Okay.
a good thing. But just like in general, do you find that it is easy work or hard work?
Okay.
Community.
So if it's just me, like if I'm the only one that community depends on for me, I don't find it that difficult. But
Well,
if,
that kind of defeats the whole purpose of
but
community.
what I'm saying though is like if I'm pressing into a place that's like
Like you and some guys.
me and some guy, like if
Okay,
it's just me and
got
some
it.
dudes getting to hang out and stuff, and I don't even know them,
Mm-hmm.
that's fine. Like one of the guys at church this last week, right? I was talking about we did the Spartan race, which if you have a chance to do
gosh.
that, make sure that your organizers of the race
We
know
are gluttons for
your actual
punishment.
course layout. Anyway, so like he was making fun of me because I told him I was like, I may do the super next year,
Mm-hmm.
and he was like, you don't want to do the beast? And I'm like, nah, I don't think so. And he goes, well, I'll hold your purse while I'm on the beast and you're doing the super. And the dude's like almost 60, and I'm like, oh,
Yeah.
we can be friends.
That also means you're probably doing the super or the beast, whatever.
I'm gonna
the
probably
hard
do
one
the
is.
trifecta next
Yeah,
year.
we're in discussions. Okay, so you think it is
Sorry,
depending
yes,
on the
back to
context.
question.
Depending on the
Yeah,
context.
depending on the context,
Okay.
it's easy in some contexts, and for me and others, it's difficult because I don't want to leave you and other people
Mm-hmm.
behind who I'm in community with already. And so Can we define something real quick?
Mm-hmm.
Like in our nuclear family, the 5 of us, is that considered community? To
I
be in
mean,
community with?
I mean, I think it is, but that's not what we're talking about here.
Right, right.
Like, you are my person.
Uh-huh.
Our
Thank you.
5, our
Thank you.
nuclear 5 are like my favorite
Or
people.
nuclear.
No. I may be from Texas, but no. I mean, I think it is community to an extent. Like, our kids have a sweet friendship,
Yeah.
but we're always encouraging them, like, hey, you need to go beyond these
Yeah,
walls
push
because
out
one
of-
day you're not going to
yeah.
be within these
Okay.
walls.
So then for this context, I'm not going to count our family as community when we're talking about community.
Like our immediate family.
Yeah.
But I would say, like, as adults, I think that our like siblings or like in-laws, things
Yeah.
like in our
Yes.
adult sphere, I
Yes.
think that's a very different approach.
100%.
Like we hang out with like my siblings or your siblings or whatever, and like they're like, we can do that on a friend level, whereas like for our kids, they don't really have much of an option for that.
They don't have an option. They have to hang out with us whether they like it or not.
Yeah.
That's not true. They hang out because they want to.
But when
at
they're
this point,
adults,
but
I hope they find
yes.
community with each other. So yeah, okay.
Yes, agreed. How about you? Is it easy or difficult for you?
What do you think the answer is?
I know what I think the answer is, but I want to hear it from your lips.
It is challenging. Community is not always something that's been easy for me.
Yeah.
I think I have a few reasons for that. Should I jump into those now?
I mean, no better time than the present.
Okay. So for me personally, I think there are probably like broad reasons that could apply to a lot of people.
Oh, sure.
But for me personally, I've kind of identified a few things that have made it harder for me.
Okay.
I think primarily I'm an introvert.
Okay.
And so I tend to, I love people and I love fellowshipping. There's a Baptist word for you there. I love being in community with people, but it does not fuel me. It drains my battery. That doesn't mean it's bad, but it definitely, I have to be mindful of it. And then we were in ministry for a long time. So this is kind of a me issue, but I put a lot of, wrong expectations on myself as being a ministry spouse.
Do you mind elaborating on that?
Yeah,
just a
I can.
skosh. Just a skosh.
Skosh, you like that word.
I really love that
you
word.
love that word. Okay, yeah, I think, so you were on pastoral staff for over a decade and before that in a volunteer capacity.
Yeah.
And so the majority of our marriage up until a few years ago, you were serving in ministry.
Yeah.
And I was like alongside you and doing things in the church too, but I definitely had like an idea in my mind of how I thought people were perceiving me or how I thought they should perceive me.
Yeah.
So that made vulnerability, transparency, and like authentic relationship really difficult for me.
Yeah.
And the flip side of that too is I did experience some people holding us at arm's length because you were on staff, and it was like, oh well, they're not going to be like our people. They, you felt to that, like, because people were afraid you might see the real them or whatever. When our goal was never to cast judgment. But it went both ways. So I would say that. Other thing is, I think when our kids were young, I was really easily overwhelmed.
But to be fair, they were so close in age.
They were, yeah. I mean, by the time our youngest, we have 3, so by the time our youngest was born, our oldest was not quite 4 yet. So we had a 3.5, 2, and newborn, basically. Woo!
We got 1 out of diapers and still had 2 in there. So.
Yeah, well, and pair that with we moved when our youngest was 2.
Yeah.
Like multiple hours away, settling into a new place. Pair that with some neurodivergence for one of our children that we hadn't yet identified.
Yeah.
And that was really hard, and it was a very isolating season trying to figure that out. So yeah, I think that was it. I have a couple more, but I'm going to stop here and let you give some reasons for you.
Yeah. Okay. So the easy part for me is if it was by myself, right? Finding community that way, especially when I was younger and we weren't married, like pre-marriage and dating years. Like I was always in everybody's business.
But you're an extrovert, really. I think we've identified you are energized by people.
And for better or worse, like I'm on the I don't want to say the calmer end of the extroverts, because sometimes I just get really wound up, and
Yeah.
it's
But an extrovert, it's not necessarily energy level like are you like going crazy around
right. No,
people? It's
but
just like your soul is fueled by
it
people.
really is, yeah.
Yeah.
And I think we you and I have talked over the years about, like, because there are times that I felt withdrawn because
Mm-hmm.
I peopled a lot, like Wednesday nights in
Mm-hmm.
church ministry and Sunday mornings in church ministry, like you're just around people
Mm-hmm.
constantly. But
Well,
it
you were
wasn't.
giving out. It wasn't really a reciprocal relationship in those seasons or those
Yeah,
times,
sometimes it was, but
especially in youth
it was
ministry.
the overall exhaustion, though. Like there
Mm-hmm.
was an actual
Oh,
physical
yeah.
and mental fatigue that had happened, and it wasn't because I was around people, but it was
Mm-hmm.
because I didn't have healthy
Work,
life rhythms, like sleeping.
work-life balance.
Ah,
What does that even
there's no
mean?
work life balance. I think you have to find work life rhythm.
Yeah, that's what I hear.
That's a whole other book that I don't want to talk about today. It was a good book, work life rhythm. If you're balanced, you're sedentary. If you're in rhythm, you're moving. Anyway,
Okay. Another conversation
so
for another
another
day.
conversation for another day.
Okay.
But for now, like now, if I'm considering like community for like us as a family, like
Mm-hmm.
trying to connect with people, like I constantly have through my mind, like I see all these dudes that I can hang out with, and they're all so different from me. But like, are our wives going to get along? Are our kids going to get along?
That's a real question because I
Yeah,
think the same thing. If I do end up finding a woman, I'm like, oh, I could be your friend. I'm like, oh, well, could we
just
all hang out, or is it going
just
to have to
count
be
it.
just us meeting up for
If you
coffee, or is this like a whole family thing?
Look, if you find a lady that you can hang out with and be friends with, her husband and I are going to figure it out.
That's probably
We'll
oh,
make it
you
happen.
will. You will. What if
Yeah.
her husband's the introvert?
Well, I'm gonna pull him out of his shell.
Okay,
That's what I do. Like you like
noted.
we joke about the Michael Scott. Michael Gary Scott has many places and spaces for quotes in our lives,
He's very quotable.
and one of his is one that I said in youth ministry all the time, because you'd have kids who, you go to lunch at the schools and they would act like they didn't know who you were, and there were times
So
that I
like
got
Wednesday
really.
night, they're like, "Yo, preach,
And
what's up?"
they're at the church early hanging out. I'm
Yeah.
like, hey, you didn't even act like you knew me 30 minutes ago. What's
Mm-hmm.
wrong with you? But like
Yeah, peer pressure.
at the end of the year, I'm like, or at the end of the day, I'm always like, no doubt about it, I'm ready to get hurt again.
Yeah.
And that is the lunacy that exists within an extrovert sometimes, because you're just like, well, all right,
Mm-hmm.
let's start over. And so the difficulty for me happens to be in the context of, is it an individual relationship that I'm building with a
Mm-hmm.
fellow guy, or is it a relationship that I'm trying to incorporate our family or you and me into?
Yeah.
Because it's hard to know, like, not everybody is going to be fine with whoever you're hanging out with, and that
Mm-hmm.
is okay. Like that, you're going to have people that you like being around sometimes, and then you're going to have people you love being around all the time, and that's reciprocal. And it's just finding that. And so that's the difficulty that's there. And sometimes that difficulty comes from experiential hurts, right?
Yeah.
You mentioned a minute ago relationships with people when I was on church staff.
Mm-hmm.
And I didn't know. Like you and I talked about it. I'm pretty sure you told me. But in my mind, I was kind of like, oh, it's not a big deal. She's making a bigger deal out of it than I am, or than she ought to, because.
I probably was. I mean, there was definitely
But
like an element of like a me issue, an internal issue that I just hadn't healthily worked through.
yeah, but it was one of those times when I should have slowed down to listen. And I didn't do a good job of that. And it wasn't until we were back from Kenya that I was like, I didn't realize just how hurt you had been, because of that. Whether it was self-perpetuated or if it was from other folks, like I didn't realize the depth of damage that had happened, and that's why the experiential hurts are there, right?
Mm-hmm.
So on a surface level, if it's a very shallow relationship for me, like building community is not that difficult to have a bunch of acquaintances. But when you start going a little bit deeper into those relationships, the experiential hurt starts to come in and kind of ping in the back of your mind, right? I know that that's not only me that feels that.
Yeah, I mean, that was coming up on my list too, was past relationship wounds.
Yeah.
I mean, there have been a few situations in my life, not too many, but a handful, that I had to walk away from a relationship and had some wounds
Yeah.
left from that. And it makes it difficult to lean into deep relationship again because it's painful when that
yeah, for
happens. So, yeah, I hear that. And so I think it kind of all ties in together for sure.
Yeah.
Yeah. And the last one for me was just insecurity. Like, do you ever feel like you're in seventh grade all over again? Because I know I
Sometimes.
do. I'm like, I remember like being so insecure and uncertain and like, am I one of the cool kids? Are they going to like me? Are they going to make fun of me? And nobody's going to make fun of me to my face probably now. But like,
Yeah.
I'm always like, are they going to talk about me behind my back? Or like, I don't, I don't want to be in those kinds of circles. And so
Yeah.
I just get really insecure sometimes, unnecessarily so. And I have to work hard to push through that.
Yeah. I mean, I think about like this past week at church, right? We've been part of a church for about 3.5 years now since we've lived in this part of the state and the country. And for the first bit of time, it was really, really tough to build community because number one, we were healing from whether it
Just
be
some experiences,
self-perpetuated experiences or experiences that just happened because of people being people, us being people, them being people. And, in those 3.5 years, we've learned like we had some responsibility in this and we really felt like maybe we didn't have a lot in it. But at the same time, we had to work through some of those things. So coming into the relationship with people at church was like, man, we're coming into church. I'm not on staff. What is the expectation? And I had no idea how I would react and respond by being at church and not being on staff at church. And that was hard
Yeah.
because I'm like, oh, I can do all these things and like I can fill all these gaps. And I'm like, there's not really any gaps to fill, which is awesome. But now I don't feel useful. And so
Oof.
I felt like this performative constipation, I guess, because
Ooh,
I
that's
felt
gross.
like
But I hear you. I hear you.
it felt like I needed to do something, but I didn't have anything to do. And I actually needed to just sit down and shut up and heal and let the Lord work in me. And so,
Yeah, there's value to that. Just
Yeah.
kind of being quiet and still.
Yeah.
And then there's value to the season when the Lord says, okay, it's time. And I'm calling you into something outside of yourselves.
yeah,
Because there are seasons of
for sure.
retreating and healing and working through some stuff. But if you come out of that strong,
Yeah.
then it's okay to step into the next place.
Yeah. So like, and so for me, like the last couple of months have really been, I've felt a lot more freedom stepping into that space where I'm not feeling like this urge to go do something.
You're not jumping on opportunity to
No.
do something, to serve in
Yeah.
a way that is like the rest of us are going, what are you doing?
Yeah, and it's building small, a small start to a couple of guys that I'm connecting with and just having great conversations with. We had a family come over for lunch a couple of weeks ago after church that were super fun. When I invited them over, I didn't know how many kids they have, but they have 5.
Yeah. I asked you, I think like 2 days before,
Yeah, I
I was
know.
like, how many kids? You're like, I don't know,
I
like
think
3,
like 2, maybe 3.
2 or 3. And I was like,
I talked
okay.
to him on Sunday. I said, hey, how many kids you guys have? He's like, 5. And I'm like, let's go.
Let's go,
It's
bring
going to
it.
be nutty.
Yeah.
And we had so
It
much
was
stinking
great.
fun
Yeah.
with those guys. And they're all 7 and under. Which
Yeah,
was
and we have
not the season we're
teenagers.
in anymore at all.
But it was, you know what though? I think that made it all the sweeter though, because I remember like being in that season and like combining our chaos with other people's chaos was
Yes.
not always fun.
Right.
But like, I'm like inviting the chaos because it's only for a few hours
Yeah.
and it's not like riling our kids up and,
Well, and the whole opportunity though is to help some other folks feel like there's a safe place that they can connect
Yeah.
with other people, and inviting them over on a whim the previous Sunday. Like I saw the husband in the church foyer, and I was like, I'm going to ask him to come to lunch, and it was weird and awkward, and I accidentally made his
Listen.
kid spill some hot chocolate on his
the
arm.
way you start a friendship.
Absolutely, and
Awkward.
now like 2.5, 3 weeks later, we're texting several times
Yeah.
throughout the week, just checking in, see how each other's doing, and I love that.
Yeah.
And seeing them and their family on Sunday night at the church for our tailgate party, like they all came in over and hung out, and we got to share some more pulled pork with them, which is what we had for lunch the previous Sunday, and they were still excited about it. So anyway, so pressing into those spaces has been, the last couple of months has been really freeing to be able to do that and start seeing like we can build community here,
Yeah.
and we don't have to be the ones waiting for community to come to us. We can take community to people, and if people aren't ready for that kind of thing yet, it's okay. Like they don't
Yeah.
have to be.
Yeah.
But it's more funner if they are.
Well, and something that stands out to me is I think so frequently we as a people will sit back and wait for an invitation.
Yeah.
But if everyone is waiting for an invitation, then everyone feels hurt and like they're not invited.
It's the old adage, if everyone has a goat, the goat goes hungry. Or if everyone owns the goat will starve.
What?
If the goat belongs to everyone, the goat will starve because nobody will feed the goat. It's everybody else's responsibility.
Oh, okay. So yes, I think like if everybody is is waiting for the invitation, and everyone's going, well, I'm not getting invited. I feel hurt, or I feel left out, or I feel lonely.
Yeah.
But everyone's feeling that. And so you have to have somebody has to take the initiative and extend the invitation. And that's not always easy to do
Yeah.
if all of those people waiting are insecure, lonely, uncertain, wounded, whatever it is. And so those of us who feel like, okay, I think I'm at a place I can do that, we have to push through, which is not always easy. I think it's much easier for you.
It is.
And you challenge me in that way, and it's a really good thing. And it is often something that I need, is to be pushed in that way, gently pushed,
Yeah.
within reason. But I think you kind of know where those boundaries are. On like,
Yeah, I've learned
today's
it.
a good day to push her, and today is not a great day to ask her to push into a
bring
place
people
that is
over for lunch.
uncomfortable. Yeah.
Well,
But yeah. Well, and I have a quote here real quick. Just there's a book that I read a couple of years ago. I haven't read it. I want to reread it. It's by Rosaria Butterfield. It's called The Gospel Comes with a House Key. And she said, we introverts miss out on a great blessing when we excuse ourselves from practicing hospitality because it exhausts us. But knowing your personality and your sensitivities does not excuse you from ministry. It means that you just need to prepare for it differently than others might.
Ooh, that's
And
good.
yeah, and that stood out to me because for me, it is definitely like, no, I can do those things. I just have to be mindful of my own tendencies and allow space to unwind later on or the next day. I can't do that back to back 7 days in a row, because I'll just be done.
Yeah.
But I can do that within reason and still have great community without exhausting myself.
Yeah. And that's where, like, when we first got to the church we're at now, like, I think you and I both were in that place of expectancy for somebody to come and invite us in, because we were just out of life and out of energy. And then that's where we had to push into that. And now we're on this side of it, 3 or 4 weeks into this whole thing, and I'm like, man, this is really fun now. And we're getting to meet people, and now, it's fun and exciting again.
Yeah. Well, and it's not going to be easy.
No.
There will be days that I'm like,
Yeah, for sure.
But I think it's getting better, and it's just taking some intentionality.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
So some of the things that kind of contribute to that too, for me too, with the community being difficult thing, I don't want to run away from this, because there's two that I actually feel like are pretty, for me at least, that contribute to the difficult part of it too. Is, for different seasons of life, we've been transient, right? Like
we have moved quite a bit.
We lived 7 years in one town when the kids were tiny, and then we moved when they were still kind of tiny.
And I grew up moving a lot. I should note that too.
Yeah, I didn't. I grew up in the same house my whole life.
Yeah.
When Mr. and Mrs. Whitfield brought me home from the hospital, that was the same house that I graduated.
It's the same
high
house
school
we go stay at for
That's
Christmas.
true. We'll see
to
that
this
at
day.
Thanksgiving, Christmas this year. For
Yeah,
that. So,
I mean, it's the same. But for me, that was not the case. So that could contribute some to our differences in how we approach or feel about community.
Yeah,
just
for
thinking
sure.
through that.
And talking to our kids about, like, relationships too. We're like, you need to go meet some new people. They're like, well, what's the point? Because there's just in that, I think in the back of their mind, there's like, what's the point in trying to build a deep relationship? And it wasn't anything that we were like intentionally neglectful with whenever we moved. It was like we couldn't foresee at that point in time the effect it would have on the kids.
Yeah.
But looking back at at that time, like, yes, they've experienced some of that difficulty building super deep relationships. But I think back to high school, and I've got good acquaintances from high school. But the relationships with those folks from high school aren't nearly as deep as some of the ones post high school. And I think that may be typical for some folks too.
Yeah, I think it's different for everyone.
But the transient life and ministry, just kind of moving every few years, made it difficult too. And then the other one was uncertain on how vulnerable to be. And you alluded to that earlier. Like, you kind of got hurt, and now how much do I
trust somebody? Yeah.
But trust can be transactional.
Yeah.
But it wasn't really meant to be that way, right? And not being sure on how vulnerable to be around people. Trust can be transactional, where you're like, okay, I'm going to give you this much, and you give me that much, and we'll, building block on top of that. But
and you should use wisdom and discernment on who you trust and how much information you share with which people.
Yep.
There's certainly people that that haven't earned that place
for sure
in my life, and that's okay. I think of like Jesus, he had a small group of
Couple
people
handfuls of
around
friends, yeah.
him. Yeah, but he had a small group of people around him. And even from that, like there are examples where he even pulls a smaller group out
Yeah.
of like his group of disciples to take aside and have a deeper conversation with. And I think we can learn from that too. Like it's
Yeah.
okay to have a great swath of acquaintances or even friends, but it doesn't mean that they all have the same level of relationship with you. And it's okay to pull out from those the few that you feel are the most trustworthy and that you can rely on.
Yeah, I agree. That's good. There's a poll that was done it was talked about in a 2018 New York Post article.
2018,
so
okay.
2018.
2000.
I
2000s.
I can't do it. So the
2000s, 110 and 8
I was going to
ones.
try to be clever about the way that I presented the date,
I'm
but
going
it
back
wasn't.
to like elementary math here.
I'm really proud. You get the little cube.
Yeah,
blocks.
that's what I was envisioning.
That's
were
really
the
good.
cubes? Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
So this 2018 New York Post article was written, and I can't remember the author's name. I lost the Google search that I looked for it, but I Googled about community being difficult for millennials. So this was specifically talking about millennials in this article, and the article of it was millennials don't even know their neighbors.
And we are millennials.
And we are millennials.
Geriatric millennials. Have you heard that?
Stop it. That's
true.
Makes
For
me
us.
sick to hear
Supposedly.
the word geriatric with my generation. So
that's fine.
But the statistic came from a study of 1,000 millennials and 1,000 non-millennials. So like,
Okay.
anyway, so pre-COVID-19.
Okay, question though. Were you may not know the answer. I'm curious. The non-millennials, were they a mix of other generations? Were they only younger, only older, or just like a random combination?
If I recall, I think it was a mix.
Okay.
It was a mix of both. So out of, not both, yeah, both before and after millennial generation. So I think it was boomers,
Just a
Gen X,
grab bag
Gen
of
Z.
generations.
I don't know that Gen Alpha was really a thing yet in 2018. I mean,
they would have been too
technically
young
were,
to poll,
but
probably.
yeah. So like it was in that general area vicinity. But this is pre-COVID-19. It said 2 out of 3 millennials. It was 66.45%. 2 out of 3 millennials don't feel like they belong to their local community. And I was like, so it's not. And this was pre-COVID.
Yeah, that's
so
wild.
this was already happening before social culture like shut down and went almost completely digital for months.
So for the majority of people, community is a challenge.
Yeah,
is
in
what
our
we have learned.
generation. And I wonder, and this is something we can flesh out a teensy bit, but like I wonder how much of that is because of how much access to social media that we have now. And even in 2018, Facebook started around like 2006. I think is when it came out, 2005, 2006.
I think I joined in like 2007.
I was
the
after
year our
you.
daughter was born.
Yeah, I tried to wait as long as I
It was
could.
like the very end, like almost Christmas, I think.
You peer pressured me into
I
it.
did.
But you look and see like social media's access. We've grown up in that wave of technology.
Yeah, like
being
we remember
millennials.
clearly life before.
And so like all this social media access now, like we've become so concerned about people's business on Facebook or on Twitter, on X or whatever that platform is, that we don't go talk to everybody. And now we just see the snippets of people's lives. And
We
it's not
rely on
good.
that for relationship. I'm using quotes because
Yeah.
I don't feel like that actually is
Yeah.
true, authentic relationship.
Yeah,
but the
and
face-to-face part is missing.
And Gen X and the boomers before us, our parents and grandparents and even the silent generation, like they were very communal in the way that they did stuff. And they literally talked to their neighbors.
Well, I remember growing up, like I vividly remember multiple times, like somebody popping by our house. We were not expecting them.
There was no
they
text.
would show up, and my mom, I don't know where she pulled this out of, but she'd have some kind of snack or coffee or tea or cookies or cake or whatever. They'd sit down and chat for like an hour mid-afternoon.
I remember when we were in Kenya, like people would pop by.
And you were expected to have, which I loved. I loved.
We didn't know what to do with ourselves the first couple of times that happened.
No, but it took me back to like
Yeah.
my childhood. And think about way before then even.
And then we started making sure we had drinks on hand or we had snacks. And it was so cool to go back to that. That was like the communal mentality. Dude, that was so much fun.
Yeah.
Like there was just community.
Yeah.
And it just was. And it wasn't
It was a natural part of the culture.
Yeah, and they weren't being pretentious. It was just part of that Kenyan culture. Now, I've seen it in Nigeria and Ghana, places where I go for work. That's how it is. People just pop by.
Well, our culture now, though, like I've heard it said, and I've heard it attributed a few different ways, but like basically, like our culture builds bigger fences and smaller
yeah.
tables.
Yeah.
And that's kind of the trajectory we've been on. And I think the fix, and I've heard this said, is why don't we stop building fences and start building bigger tables?
Yeah.
Because there's so much to be said about breaking bread with people, and there's a level of relationship that comes from just sitting down with somebody over a meal.
Yeah. The most fun I've had is I can almost always think back to being around either the dinner table or the living room of
Good
somebody's
food,
house,
good company,
just hanging out.
Yeah.
I mean, breaking bread, there's so much,
Yeah.
there's something so social about it.
Yeah.
And it's weird for me when we sit and we're around people who don't talk when they eat.
Oh, yeah.
And I'm like, that's so awkward. Like, I loved having these folks over to our house a couple weeks ago because we were just chatting. Kids are running all over the place, bouncing
great.
off the walls. It was awesome. Like, probably one of my favorite things. But in that 2018 article, it captured pre-pandemic mentality, how it was, and it just kind of exacerbated it after. And now it just feels like there's so much like a lack of desire to even talk to somebody. Like, we were already kind of the garage communities where people pull in the garage, shut the door, don't even get out of the car until that door is shut, and go inside the house. And
that explains why there's a conspiracy theory. Have you heard it?
No, but I want to hear. I'm here for it. Let me get my foil hat real quick.
I've heard this. Oh, I was like, what is that noise?
It's my foil hat.
Yeah, that didn't sound like foil, but okay.
That's all I got.
If anybody's like listening to this in like earbuds or like in their car and they hear that noise, they're like panic. Anyhow, no, there's this, I mean, it's a silly conspiracy, you know, like people are like, well, it's a sign we're in the Matrix or whatever,
yes.
You know, the matrix glitch in the Matrix or whatever. And it's like but it makes you think. So here's the question. How many of our neighbors have you ever seen carrying in their groceries? Have you ever seen a neighbor of yours carrying in their groceries?
Oh my, we must be the only ones who do that then.
Okay. So I'm like, my neighbors have seen me carrying in groceries because our
one of them has.
Yeah, well,
I know for sure one neighbor has.
Well, because she'll meet us at the driveway to talk sometimes, but
which is super fun.
Yeah. So I'm like, it's funny to think about, but then if you bring it up like you just did, like the pull in your garage, close it, and go inside culture, that maybe explains it. So maybe it's not a glitch in the Matrix. We're just so isolated, living on our little garage islands. And we're just getting in and out as fast as we can, trying not to make eye contact. I mean, okay, I think about...
Or we're not front porch sitting anymore.
Yeah. Or talking over the fence to our neighbor. Think about, remember Home Improvement from back in the day?
Heidi-ho, neighbor.
Heidi-ho. What's his...
Wilson.
Wilson, yeah. Wilson was, you could only see the top half of his head. But, I mean, they were constantly, like, he and Tim had this... friendly little over the fence relationship, and I loved it. Or Mr. Feeney from Boy Meets World. I mean, they were always talking over the backyard thing or whatever. But like that kind of stuff, I don't even know if that's in sitcoms anymore. Not any that I've been watching.
Oh, most of the sitcoms do take place indoors. I don't
or
see
like
a lot of
an
stuff
apartment
outside.
building, or we don't watch a lot of sitcoms anymore unless they're older. But it's just a thought, and it further affirms what you're saying about our tendency to just.
Well, and it's easy because you don't get any drama started, or I'm in such a hurry to get inside and start dinner, or there's no telling what my kid's gotten into. We're kind of past that stage now.
Or we're just tired.
Or we're just tired.
Yeah.
Like, and sometimes, honestly, sometimes the neighborhood drama can be taxing because somebody wants you to take their side on something.
Yeah, next door app.
Like, oh gosh,
I'm not on that, but you are. You tell me all
the
about
residents, the residents' Facebook groups. Anyway, so let's get off of that soapbox for a minute.
Probably a good idea.
But I think it's interesting because community, like we said a minute ago, you know, are we counting our nuclear family as community? No, but we count our extended family, right? Like, I think we have great community with your side of the family when it comes to Christmas and Thanksgiving. Like I remember marrying into the family and just being blown away by how nutty your family was, and everybody was awesome. Like everybody hung out, all the kids did stuff, and people are in each other's personal space, and it was weird. And I'm like, I kind of like this.
Yeah, you said nutty, and it made me think my entire life being at my grandparents' house for holidays, the phone rings. The most random person, cousin, aunt, whatever, would pick up the phone, and you remember how they would answer it?
No, there's thousands of ways they'd answer it.
Well, this was the most common. Morrow Nut House.
I never heard that one.
Really?
I don't think I ever hung out by the phone.
Oh, yeah, no, you certainly were not hanging out by the phone. But even in my childhood, but like, I mean, even it's just like when everybody's there
Yeah.
and congregating. So you said nutty, and it made me think of that. And it's just funny
Yeah.
because it's true. I
But
mean,
they're fun. Like,
and yeah,
it's a hot mess, and it's really hysterical to see the just the craziness that goes
Mm-hmm.
on, and like that kind of community. I'm like, that is a place where I just kind of fit right
Mm-hmm.
in. I mean,
it's
just
chaos, but it's great.
it is, and like what's fun about it is like we have our gripes with each other. Like if anybody that's our family member is listening to this podcast and is saying we never have any problems with each other, you're lying through your teeth
Liar,
because we
liar,
all get
pants
annoyed
on
with each other
fire.
and we just turn around and we walk it off, and then we come back and we're happy
But
again.
everybody's kind. Nobody's like rude
Yeah.
ever.
But something to be said about that, though, with this community that's built within family, though, and in friend groups that are smaller, is, there's political, religious, and social views sometimes that we don't always agree on. That sometimes, for me, I'm like, I know they're about to say some crazy stuff. How am I going to react to this? And can I still be in community with this person, right? I don't mind disagreement.
Yeah.
I'm an Enneagram 8. Friction and some of that kind of helps.
You're like, let's go.
But part of the problem that I run into is like,
But not everybody's wired that way.
they're not,
Yeah.
but I also have to remember that like that may be their opinion, but that doesn't make them less than as a person because I disagree.
Yeah.
Right. And that's how like sometimes my perspective has to shift, because if it doesn't, then a community becomes really, really difficult, and I become very off-putting because I can be aggressive and I can be very passionate about
Yeah.
the things I believe.
Yeah.
And that makes community hard. And I know for you, for the first several years we were married, like we would have real quiet conversations on the way home from Email's house because you would be, why did you do that? And I'm like, I don't know. But it was, I didn't know.
Well, we were figuring it out.
We were definitely figuring it
Yeah.
out. But the community aspect of it, we don't all agree within our family about all these different things, but we still have that community.
Yeah.
Can we extend that same mentality into people around us? That's where it gets hard.
Like if people don't vote the same way as you, maybe they don't want to steal the Declaration of Independence with me.
Which is still rude. I think
They
they
want to
should.
vote. I can still be their friend. Is that what I'm hearing?
That's what I'm hoping for in relationship
Okay.
with community. But
I
it
mean,
gets
truly
scary,
though,
our-
like politics, I think is like a huge thing
Yes.
where people feel like, can I sit down at the table
Yeah.
and have an authentic friendship
Yeah.
with somebody who believes very differently
Yeah.
than me and or thinks or votes differently? And I think in the media, the way it is right now, there's been such a divisive. There's been a line drawn and a hard line drawn, and it's you're not allowed to straddle the line or say, hey, it's okay. You're almost forced to pick one side or the other. I'm not saying you are forced.
No,
People
but-
don't have to, and I for one
that's-
tend to not do that. But
That's the way it projects, right?
Yeah.
That's what's seen out there. That's what we're exposed to, is this feeling of I have to believe in this or I have to believe in this.
Yeah.
And if I don't believe in either one, I must be wrong. And I'm
Yeah.
like, "Ugh, I don't believe in either one of those things. So
what do you do with that?
I'll just stay quiet.
Is that another podcast episode?
It could be.
I think it
I
might
think
be.
it may be on our list.
Is it?
It should be. If it's not.
Our list is ever evolving.
It is.
Yeah. Okay. So what do we do? We've kind of talked about
yeah.
like, okay, this can be a challenge, and we've talked about our reasons for it. We've kind of talked about a little bit of like culturally, what's the norm. So we have like personal, cultural stuff happening. So what do we do in the face of community being challenging? And I think we've talked through this a little bit. Like we lean in,
Yeah.
right? We lean in, we push
Yeah.
into those spaces where it's hard, and say, I'm willing to get hurt again.
Yeah.
I'm ready and willing.
Yeah.
What's the quote?
No doubt about it.
No
I'm
doubt
ready to get
about
hurt
it.
again.
There you go. Yeah. I have another quote. Is now a good time for it?
Yeah. I was just going to say, though,
Oh, go ahead.
you just need to do what I do. That's what you need to do.
Just put yourself out there.
Just put yourself out there.
Get a little awkward.
Make
Here's what
little's
you
not
should
the
do.
word, though.
Here's what you should do. You should go to the grocery store
Okay.
and pull herbs down in people's faces and start
We
conversations.
could have had them over for dinner.
We
tonight.
could have. I could have been like,
What a
listen.
whiff. You missed on that.
I
It's because I'm deaf
know.
that you didn't.
Gosh,
Golly.
they even like
Next
were
time.
gracious and funny about it.
They were
I
funny.
mean,
Like, they seemed pretty pleasant. They didn't want to, like, throw you or
I mean,
anything,
they
so.
took herbs to the face and still smiled. I'm saying
Wait, which herb did you hit them with?
time.
Oh, it was time.
It was time. It was time.
That's awesome.
I mean, it was in a plastic container, but bless their hearts, right in the face.
Take that.
Oh man. Okay.
All right.
Yeah.
So, what do?
You
Honestly,
lean in.
Yeah, you lean in. I think that's good. Oh, yeah, your quote. Sorry. I knew we were chasing a squirrel. And
That's okay.
it
I
was a
mean, we
dove
keep doing
squirrel.
that, but that's okay.
No,
I like it.
I want your quote because I know it. I think I know which one it is, and it's a long one, but it's a good one.
It is. It is a long one, but it is really good.
There's another Michael Gary Scott comment quote there, but we won't say it. Anyway, continue with your long quote.
Okay, this one is, and I should note that the people that I'm quoting, I've read books that encouraged me, inspired me, challenged me, but I'm not necessarily aligning with everything that they believe in, and I may not even know everything that they believe in, but I can take something from a book and say this inspired me, and the Lord used this in my life, and I just want to say that. So Shannon Martin, the author of the book, is called "The Ministry of Ordinary Places," and this is a quote, kind of leaning into the neighboring side of things, but also community altogether. And she said this: "As Christ followers, we are called to be long haul neighbors, committed to authenticity and willing to take some risks. Our vocation is to invest deeply in the lives of those around us, devoted to one another, physically close to each other as we breathe the same air and walk the same blocks. Our purpose is not so mysterious after all. We get to love and be deeply loved right where we're planted by whomever happens to be near. We will inevitably encounter brokenness we cannot fix, solve, or understand, and we'll feel as small, uncertain, and outpaced as we have ever felt. But we will find our very lives in this calling to be among people as Jesus was, and it will change everything."
There was a part in that quote that I hadn't caught before, but it's talking about the people that you're planted by. Right? You think about plants, and the plants on either side of a seedling will either dominate it and kill it, or they'll help it to nurture and to grow. And trees, oftentimes, this is completely unscientific. I think sometimes trees, when they grow amongst other trees, you look at like an oak grove, right? A grove of live oaks. Like you can find them still in different parts of Texas, but they grew like that. They're all the same size, and they all kind of grow in an outward shape, and they make like a center in the middle. But that's because they helped nurture one another. The nutrients were shared, shade for one another.
They found fertile soil.
But that's
and they hung out
where
together.
Are we right now? Are we going to be the plants that help nurture the people we're planted next to, or are we going to be the plants that suck up all the nutrients and kill them?
Yeah. Well, that's
I want to nurture them.
That's a very
socially,
vivid
emotionally.
picture.
I'm not being like, I'm a little weird, but
no, but I mean, but you saying that brings up the other thing, and the quote is, the people we're near. And I think it's also important to note that community happens best with people that you are in regular proximity with.
Yes.
Because I have some very dear friends who I've been dear friends with since high school, but we live all over. None of us are in the same city, and even one of us is in a different state than the rest. And we have a friendship where we can pick back up. Like if we have a girls' weekend, feels like we're in high school having a slumber party all over again, right?
Yeah.
But our day-to-day community with one another is not what it was when we were 17.
Yeah.
And it shouldn't be that way now. It can't be expected to be that way because we're not in each other's lives day to day. We all have different churches.
Yeah.
We have different rhythms. And so proximity matters. And that's where we need to lean in. Not saying you can't be friends or have community with other people, but that day to day, like I'm relying on you, you're relying on me. You're my people, we'll be your people, that kind of thing. Those are people who should be able to be in your life on a regular basis.
Yeah. Well, that's the long haul friendship, right? That you're building and growing deep, and those roots are being nourished and fed and stuff. And so
which is where the local church comes in too.
Yeah, absolutely. And I'm so grateful that we went on a little side quest for a little while and visited a different church for a little while, just because we were feeling some kind of hurt.
Just trying to figure some stuff out.
But because of that time, we've come back and realized this is where we need to start pushing in. And so this is where I feel more comfortable saying, hey, I'm just going to go invite some people to lunch, and I hope that you're okay with that kind of situation. We've had a pre-conversation.
Yeah, I would say we talked about it.
But it's just those opportunities to step into that space and be willing to put yourself out there. And so I'm excited about those opportunities that we have now. Still not perfect, and I still probably weird some people out because I just say random stuff sometimes. Other times I'm pretty coherent and make good sense, but as I get older, I find that sometimes one outweighs the other, and I'll let you guess that. But
I'm just
Anyway,
gonna let you keep talking.
thanks, because it'll keep coming. But yeah, I mean, this is the beauty of this podcast is we're not solving any issues. We're just
It's a journey.
throwing stuff out there, hoping folks find some encouragement there.
Well, and at 40 and 42, we're still figuring out this whole family community thing, and I believe that the Lord will honor effort.
Yeah.
He can't honor us sitting in our house doing nothing. He can't bless that. How about that?
Hold
he
up.
can't bless it.
He doesn't bless good intentions.
Oh, where's the Bible verse for that one?
That's in Second Philip's brain cells. I don't know.
No, but I think that's fair though.
Yeah,
I mean, like
for sure.
You look in Scripture, and God frequently calls people to act. I know somebody who wrote a book called God Honors Movement, actually, and it's talking about situations in Scripture and how that bold step of faith is often what God blesses.
Yeah. Well, and it goes into that conversation, I think, in James, where he's talking about show me your faith by your works, and I'll show you my works. Anyway, I'm going to butcher that, but the same concept is there. You say you have faith, but your works don't measure up.
Yeah, make it match.
Yeah, make it match. And so let's continue making our words match up with our actions.
Yeah.
And build community.
Yeah.
Push into it.
So we haven't solved anything today, but I hope that we've encouraged people to know, if not anything else, that they're not alone in their feelings of struggle. And we all have things we have to work through, but that we're in this together. And I would love to hear from people what they've done to facilitate community in their own lives. Yeah. What's worked, what's been helpful, what was something surprising. Yeah, I would love to know that.
Yeah, reach out to us. Tell us what you think. So.
Yeah, I think, are we wrapping this up now?
I think we're wrapping it up.
We feel good about it?
I feel pretty good about it.
I mean,
I don't know that we can beat this horse anymore.
No, probably not. Okay.
Yeah. Anyway, that's it. That's the end of episode 3.
Yeah.
So, till next time.
See you then. Bye, y'all.
Hey, y'all. Thanks for joining us again on this episode of the Not There Yet podcast. We are so thankful for those of you guys who are supporting us and following us. We'd love to hear back from you guys, though. So if you could, reach out to us via email at thenottheryetpodcast@gmail.com. Yes, it is all one word at the beginning before @gmail.com. So holler at us. We'd love to hear from you. Thanks. And until next time, y'all have a great day.